This conference will now be recorded.
Fine. So let us go through the concepts of style sheets once again. Okay, right. Now, when you visit any website, you take any website or news portal, right? Now, when you look at the content of the website, okay, see, now let's say I've come to rediff.com. Now I go to cricket. I click on the link cricket and I visit the sports page. So now you see, let's say how they are presenting the content. So you have a picture and they have, let's say, represented all the important news item as bulleted points, right? With square bullets. And when you see, look at the web page, it looks so neat and organized. So like, let's say if you use H1 for heading, for example, it will be displayed in the biggest font. So HTML does not give you the option to control the presentation beyond certain extent. So we need to use CSS so that, let's say, we can present, we'll be able to define different styles for different content on the web page. Okay, now I have come to the cricket page. Now here you see, this is a square shape that is called as a bullet, and this is a hyperlink. The moment let's say I move the mouse over the hyperlink, you see the color of the text changes to blue. When I move it again, it comes back to the normal. So all the styling and everything, for this purpose, you need to use JavaScript. So yesterday I told you, right, about behavior. Okay, so in the HTML you define the content. So what I mean by content, so what are the important let's say information that goes into the web page, your web page headings, content, images, your videos. So these are all the content. HTML gives you the option to define basically the structure of a web page. So structure means, let's say, what all should appear, where it should appear, what should come after the other. So first, let's say you see the, okay, let's say hyperlink, then you have, let's say, the content, right? Then you have pictures and everything. So all the structuring, the basic layout is done with HTML. So HTML lets you define the layout and then the content. Now, to display the content in a presentable format, okay, we use CSS. Say HTML is just like you're constructing a house. As soon as you start constructing the house, what do you concentrate on? You concentrate on, let's say, laying a good foundation, and let's say what, constructing all the individual rooms, everything, putting the pillars and everything. You can think of HTML similar to that. So here when I let's say look at HTML, I am concerned only about the content. Okay, I don't let's say bother very much about the presentation or the behavior. So once you have decided what are all the contents you're going to present in the web page, then you would think of how to present it. Okay, so that to make a good impression on the user. That is, once you complete all the construction, then only you think of doing interior work. Then you think of what color paint to use. Okay, what material, let's say what should be the color scheme in your living room. What should be the, how your windows should be, okay, painted, what color, all that you think. What furniture you're going to buy, what sort of television, all that you think. You can think of CSS as that. So once you finish all the construction, you, let's say you laid out all the roof and construction work is completely over, then you start with the decorative work. Okay, then you think of, let's say, the paint, colors, color schemes, then, well, let's say what the type of curtains. Then you write from, let's say, your television set, where you're going to place it. All that you do it after your construction. So similarly, once I have decided all the content and the structure of the web page using HTML, then I come to CSS and think how to present everything neatly so that anybody who visits my website will be impressed, and they should be impressed that, so that they keep coming back again and again. Then comes the JavaScript for behavior. So what I mean by behavior, so this is what is the behavior. The moment you move the mouse pointer over the, let's say this hyperlink, what color should be displayed. So when you click, so these are called as a behavior. So in here you see, enter your email address, keep me updated, rid of news in your inbox. You enter your email address and then you click on this. Okay, so what happens, your email address will be sent to the web server and your email address will be stored in the Redis database and you keep getting news in your inbox. So this is the behavior. When I click on the button, what happens? I can't write this using HTML or CSS. The HTML is just for creating the button. Using the HTML, I can just create a button. Using CSS, I can style. I can decide what should be the color of the button, what should be the color of the text in the button. So when the user clicks the button, what happens? For that, I need a JavaScript code and then the server-side code. So that is what you mean by behavior. Okay, so right, once you start designing the page, you decide how many pictures you're going to put and how the picture should be laid out, how the, let's say, content should be laid out. Now here you see you have, let's say, this is, we call it as a sidebar here. Here you have an advertisement running. So you can't put the advertisement here. Right. So when anybody opens the sports page, they're interested to know about the sports news. So you can't put this advertisement, new folks, and I can't put it here in there. So it should be all the important content should appear in the left. Okay, and the content, advertisements, and everything should appear on the right. So this is how, let's say, all the websites are designed. So this is how, let's say, you should think of when you say presentation. This is basically how you, let's say, lay out all the elements in a web page. So in a web page, you can have, let's say, 10 images, 20 images, etc. So how we are going to combine the images with the text, with a hyperlink, and then present it so that people who visit the website will be able to read the news, okay, without any hindrance. That is the basic purpose of CSS, right? Okay, now that let's say I click on a hyperlink, it's going to take me to this news page, right? So I can click on the back button, I come back, right? Now when you, let's say, look at this headlines. So these are displayed in uppercase, capital letters, okay? And these are, everything is styled using CSS. So this is the main heading, new, home, news, business, movies, cricket, etc. Now you click on the cricket tab. So below this, okay, these are all the hyperlinks. So this must be displayed in a font size lesser than the main heading, because this is not a main heading, this is the subheading. So all these design elements and the presentation comes under the CSS. Clear to everybody?
Ma'am.
Okay, fine. So everybody, I assume that everybody has understood what is meant by structural, presentational, and behavioral, right? Okay, then let us go to the next one. So what happens when you send a request to the web page? Now, the moment I type rediff.com, so what happens behind the scenes? Tell me. You go and type the address of the website on the address bar of the browser. What happens after that? Tell me. Come on, tell me. Let's say today's class, let it be a discussion. Okay, so any of you tell me what happens behind the scenes? Okay, open a new tab. Let's say I go to rediff.com. I type it in the address bar of the browser. So what response do I get? So what is this called as? The moment I type rediff.com, So how the server what is the first page in a website is called what? Any idea?
Landing page.
No? So the first page in a website is called as a home page. Write down. You have to be familiar with all this terminologies. Home page is nothing but the first page in a website. The moment you type the address of the website, what you see, that is called as the home page. Right? So the browser fetches me the home page of the website. So what, let's say the home page will contain, the home page will contain my HTML code, right? .html page. The HTML page will contain, let's say, both the static content and the dynamic content. And the HTML will contain not only the HTML tags, it will contain the CSS for the what? For styling, and the JavaScript code to handle events. Right? So the browser will create something called as a document object model, representing each and every element in your HTML page, right? And then it will display the web page according to the CSS that is being written. Then all this happens within a space of 10 seconds. Right? So when the moment you type the address of a website, immediately the home page is displayed on your browser window. Okay. Now let's see how exactly the CSS works. So the browser loads the HTML and then the CSS, and let's say it parses the CSS. What do you mean by parsing? What do you mean by parsing? Parsing means it will check if there are any errors in your CSS. Like for example, if I make any errors in my CSS, for example, I'll show you. I'll take this web page, right? So okay, text align center. This is the property and this is the value. They must be separated by what? A colon. By mistake, I've given the semicolon. So what the HTML parser will do, I open it in the web page. Okay, fine. So here what will happen, if it is a small mistake, it will just ignore. So h1 style is equal to text align. You see, is it aligned in the center? No, because I have given this property wrongly. Okay, so text align. So if I put the colon instead of the semicolon, I refresh the page now. Now you see it is displayed in the center, right? So this is what basically the parser does. If all your HTML elements, all your CSS is done syntactically correct. If there are any syntax errors, your page will not be displayed properly. So that is what the parser does. So the parser will check for all the syntactic elements. Because syntactically everything is okay with the CSS. It will create the DOM tree. DOM stands for document object model. So the DOM tree will be used by the JavaScript to respond to the behavior. What I mean by behavior? The moment you click on a button. Okay, let's say it is telling you to enter your email address. The moment you enter the email address, for example, I just type my email address, Maheswari at Google. I forgotten this com. So immediately JavaScript will tell me your email address is not correct. So to do this, it has to have the complete picture of your HTML elements that will be represented in the DOM tree. So before displaying your HTML, your page undergoes, let's say, loading all the elements and then parsing, and finally your page is displayed. Is it clear to everyone? Is it clear? Okay. Okay, fine. So why do we have to use CSS? Okay, you are very happy with HTML. HTML lets you display text, image, everything. Then why should you bother about CSS? Okay, now you would have downloaded a lot of applications from your Google Play Store, right? You would have, let's say, downloaded, let's say, a lot of applications, even your Facebook, Instagram, everything you download from the, let's say, Google Play Store, right? The same way I can also open and browse Facebook in your laptop, in my laptop. I can also open it in my mobile, right? So now you know the size of your laptop screen is bigger and the size of your mobile screen is small compared to this, right? Now, so when you design your web page, it should be designed in such a way that in whatever device you open the website, let maybe a tab, or let's say it may be your mobile, laptop, anything, right? So all the content, everything should be displayed smoothly without breaking. So more or less, you look at your mobile screen, you open a website in your mobile and then you open it in your laptop, you check it out, so the content will have the same look and feel. Okay, so your web pages should be designed not only for one particular screen, you should be able to scale up or down to different devices with different screen sizes. So all this can be done only with CSS. It cannot be done with HTML. So the HTML, I assume the standard screen size is 640. Okay, the 800 by 640. I design a web page. You open it in your your let's say laptop or desktop. It will be displayed very well. The same website you open it on your mobile, it will not be displayed properly. So to have a uniform and smooth look and feel, you need to use CSS. Okay, then it supports all the devices and support, right? And then you can perform animation, advanced user interface components. So like if you want to design, let's say, an attractive form, let's say you go to the website of, let's say, Pizza Hut, right? You will place an order, you look at the form, it will be attractively designed. So all the advanced UI components are provided by HTML5 and CSS. Okay, and you can also even access your Google Maps in CSS, in the new version of CSS. And you can display not only pictures, you can display audios and videos. Okay, so because of all these reasons, we use CSS. Okay, the version of CSS we are learning is CSS3. Okay, now if you look at the advantage of cascading style sheets, it saves lot of time. Okay, the pages will load faster. Just with HTML, you design, if you design a web page with just HTML without CSS, loading the web page will be slow. Why? Because for each and every element, along with the tag, you will be specifying the formatting. But in CSS, you specify everything in the CSS file, external style sheet. So you define, let's say, the common style attributes for most of the HTML elements. That's why the page is load faster. Maintenance will be very easy. Why do I say maintenance is easy? Because I can define all the style attributes of my entire website. Let's say you're creating a website with 30 or 50 web pages. So I can control all the attributes of all those 50 pages using my external CSS file. So if I need to make any changes, I don't even have to open my HTML. You open the CSS file, you make all the changes, and automatically it will be reflected in all the HTML pages. So it provides you multiple device compatibility and platform independence. Okay. Then when you look at the cascading style sheets, you have three types of style sheets: inline style, internal or embedded style, and external style. So what do you mean by internal, inline style? Tell me. So what is the difference between, what is the advantage of embedded CSS over inline CSS? Tell me. Yes. What is the advantage of embedded CSS? Any idea? Okay, so the inline CSS, you define the style, all the style properties with the HTML tag itself. So it loses the reusability. It is not reusable, right? Okay, fine. So if you want to specify a style attributes for paragraph, you give it with a paragraph tag. If you want to specify style attributes for heading, you give it with a heading tag. So the problem with this approach is that now I've used the inline style here. So again, I'm giving one more H1 tag. And I want the same attributes to be applied, right? And here in the first H1 tag, I've given a style, right? And I want the same style to be applied to the H1 tag I've given in the end. How do I do it with the inline style? Tell me. Look at the output of the HTML page. Okay, I've displayed this welcome to CSS using which tag? Which tag? Welcome to CSS. What tag I've used here? Tell me what tag I've used. This is going to be a discussion, so you people can speak.
Heading tag.
Heading tag, H1 tag, right? What style I have given? Alignment center, font color red, right? That is how it is. I want the same style to be applied to this H1 also. Finally, I am displaying a message with H1. The first H1 tag I have given a style at properties. I want the same properties here. Then what for this also? What I have to do now? Tell me what to do now. Any idea? If you don't know the answer, it doesn't matter. Tell me you don't know. Respond. What I have to do? Tell me. So I need to copy the same thing here. Yes. Now the style is applied. Yes or no? Right? Now the style is applied. Suppose I add 3 more H1 tags in the page and I want the same style to be applied. Then what I need to do? I need to copy this into all my H1 tags, right? Yes or no? Okay. Now let's say when I have 10 H1 tags, 10 times I need to define the style. Okay. Now I decide to change the color from red to green. What I need to do? Okay. See, for the second H1 tag, excuse me, what is the disturbance?
அண்ணா உன் ஃபோன்ல அட்டெண்ட் பண்ணிட்டா
to do?
Last on voice net
Right? So if I have to make any changes, I need to make the changes everywhere. When I have 50 H1 tags, and when I decide to change the color, I need to make the changes in 50 places everywhere throughout. This is the disadvantage of inline style. Right? That is why we have been telling you don't use the inline style at all. Okay. To avoid this, what you have to do? So you need to avoid this, you need to use something called as a embedded style or external style sheet. Now I have the embedded style. So what is the advantage of the embedded style? So for H1 tag, for every tag, you define the style attribute. Okay. So everything is, let's say, declared in one place. The same style is applied throughout the document. Now suppose if for H1 tag I want to, let's say, instead of a center alignment, I want to give, let's say, left alignment, right? So I have to make the change only once. In my style sheet, it will be reflected throughout the document. Now we'll look at the embedded style. So for the H1 tag, you've given the color as blue. Okay, text align as center. Now, where all I have used H1 tag? Here, twice I have used. So if I decide to change, let's say, the color blue to green, or let's say the center alignment to left alignment, I need to change it only once in my style sheet. So whenever I use the H1 tag throughout the document, it will be updated. Clear? Clear? Now I decide to add a border to the H1. Let's say I'll center it. I want to add a border to the H1 tags. So I just declare it in my embedded style. The style declaration, the style will be automatically applied. So whenever you like, you can add the styles, and in case if you want to remove, you can remove it. The changes will be reflected throughout the document. Now I say border. You see, the border has been. So tomorrow I decide to remove the border. I don't have to go to the make any changes to my HTML. I just change the style attributes. That's it. Okay, fine. Then let's say external style sheet. What is external style sheet? Tell me.
Ma'am, it's when you use a separate notepad file to mention all your properties and you link that to the
Yes.
HTML file.
Yes, what you do is you define all the style properties in a separate file, and you must save it with the extension CSS. If you don't save with the extension CSS, it will not work. Okay, and you link that style sheet to your HTML using the link tag. Right, so all the style sheet attributes you have defined will be applied to the HTML elements in the HTML file. Okay, tell me, what is the advantage of external style sheet over the embedded style?
You can use this external style sheet for a lot of HTML files.
Yes. When I define an embedded style, so where will I define the embedded style? In the style tag under the head section. So that style sheet rule will be applied only for that particular HTML page. Now assume that when you have 50 HTML pages in your website, you want a uniform look and feel for all the pages. So you put it in an external style sheet, right? And then you link all your 50 HTML pages to that style sheet. So the same style will be applied, okay, to all the web pages, and all your web pages will have the same uniform look and feel. And tomorrow when you want to make any changes, by just updating your style sheet, you will be, let's say, updating 50 different HTML documents. This is the advantage of the external style sheet. So is it clear to everyone?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
in every HTML page, you need to add the link tag. If you forget to add the link tag, the style will not be applied. So you have to make sure that all your HTML pages are linked to the style sheet file with extension CSS. Right? So the style sheet file will control the design of all the HTML pages linked to it. Okay, fine. Fine. Then what do you mean by the CSS rule? So the CSS rule consists of two parts. One is a selector and other one is a declaration. What is a selector? Tell me. Which is a selector? Which is a selector?
Is the selector the HTML tag?
Selector can be any HTML tag, right? The declaration will consist of property value pairs. Okay. Now, when you want to, let's say, if you want, I will just a single property, text align center. I specify a single property, and if I want to specify multiple properties, I can do it one by one. Okay, so you can just write your selector, give this opening angular, let's say curly brace, specify all the properties. So font family. So totally, how many properties I'm applying for the body in this case? Totally 4 properties, right? Font family, color, background, margin. So you can specify any number of properties. Once you have specified all the properties, close the curly brace, right? So every, let's say, the CSS rule will consist of this, the declaration. Declaration consists of what? Your property value. Some properties you can specify multiple values like font family. Okay, why do I'm specifying 3 different fonts? Let's say I want the web page to be displayed in Tahoma font. In case, let's say, you know how the web page is displayed, it is downloaded in the user's system and then it is formatted and displayed. Let's say, assume that in my computer, the Tahoma font is not available. Then I'm telling the browser if the Tahoma is not available, look for the Arial font. If Arial is also not available, look at sans serif. If all these 3 are not available, use the default font, right? So some properties you can give can take multiple values. Most of the properties you can give only one value, right? So the style sheet rules or the declaration you have given will be applied to that HTML selector. So when I say HTML selector, it can be body, H1, paragraph, all the HTML tags you have learned till now can be used as a selector, and there will also be some more tags like span and div. I'll come to it later. Fine. So my .css file will be having multiple statements. We'll have multiple selectors, and every selector I can define a rule, the CSS rule consisting of the property and the value. Okay, fine. So when you take this H1, you can specify multiple properties. When you're specifying multiple properties, every property value pair must be separated by a semicolon. Clear? Okay, fine. So what are all the, let's say, the properties we have learned yesterday? Any idea? Style sheet properties. So we have learned, let's say, text align, right? Text align property. What are all the values I can give for this?
Left, right, and center.
Left, right, center, and there is one you can also give justify. Right, when you're displaying, let's say, let's paragraph consisting of 10 or 15 lines. Okay, you want it to be aligned properly with respect to both the margins. You can give justify. I'll show that now. I'll add some more text. Okay, now I specify this. Fine. Now, since I've given alignment as right, see, it is aligned properly with respect to the right margin, right? Let me change it to left. Now you see it is aligned with respect to the left margin. Now I want the text to be aligned properly with respect to both the margins, right? So I give it as justify. Right, you have seen the justify alignment in Microsoft Word, right? I can apply the same kind of alignment using this justify property. Clear? So there are 4 values which the text align property can take: left, right, center, and justify. And you can give the justify alignment only with the CSS. You can't, it cannot be given in HTML. You can't say h1 align is equal to center. You do it in HTML, right? You can't give the justify value, right? Okay. Then what is the next property we have learned? Text alignment. Then color. So color property, you can give the color name or color hexadecimal color code. So when you look at the picker, let's say I want to, let's say for every color, you can't give them. See, when you say yellow, it will apply only the dark yellow. Let's say I want a lighter shade of yellow. So what you need to do, you need to use the color picker. Here you see, this is called as a hexadecimal code. Okay. Now I want to pick a very light shade of green. So I can note down the color code and I can give it as a background color. So here I say right. You see the color I picked is being displayed as a background color. Clear? Clear? So you can go and search for the exact color you need. You can copy the hexadecimal code and you can give it in your CSS. Clear? Okay. So text alignment, then color, name, and all you have given. Then what is the next property we have learned? Tell me. I want some response from you people.
Ma'am, font size.
Font size. So font size can be given in pixels, points, or percentage. So when I say percentage, it is a percentage of the, let's say, the parent container. Okay. Now you know everything is all the tags you use in a HTML are nested within body. Right. Now for H1 and H2, what is the parent container? Body. Okay. Within this. Okay, now here I have this H1 and then I have this U tag underline, which is a parent container for the underline, the H1 tag, right? Okay, so when I say percentage, it means the percentage of the parent container. Okay, so you try out this percentage and then tell me tomorrow how it came out. Okay, font size. What is the next property? Text align, color. Then what is the next property we discussed yesterday? Font size and then
Font width. I mean, not yeah, font width.
font family. Right. You can give the name of the font. So multiple values can be given. There are very few properties in CSS which take multiple values. Out of that, the most important property is font family. And the important thing you need to remember is that if a font name contains a space, it must be enclosed within double quotes, right? Or then next. Next. Text align, color, font size, family. Then just now I showed you with the color picker what property I manipulated. Look at the web page and tell me. I've searched for the color, right, with the color picker. And then what property I've used with the body just now, with the body tag. Come on, tell me. Background color, right? Same color name can be, name or hexadecimal value can be given. Next. Color, font size, font family. Next. Come on, is that all we have learned yesterday?
Border.
So border property I've given a shorthand notice. See, border can be defined for all the four sides, top, bottom, then left and right. So here when I say 2 pixels shorthand, I can say this is applied for all the four sides, and then the border style and then the color. So when I say border 2 pixel dashed red, what does it mean exactly? So the border 2 pixel is the border thickness. Okay, and next one is the style. Dashed is the style. So it can be dotted, dashed, solid, anything, and then the color for the border. And it should be given in the same order. If I miss anything, the border may not be displayed in some browsers. Suppose I remove this 2 pixel. I'm removing the thickness. Okay, now for the H1, I try to display. Some browsers will display, the older browsers will not display it. Okay. So 2 pixel, the border style and then the border color. The border color again can be defined as a color name or a hexadecimal code. Then what we learned? Okay, now I give the alignment as, instead of center text align, I give the alignment as left for the H1 tab. Now when you look at it, see, there is no proper space between the text and the border, right? And I want some space to be included everywhere, right? For that, what I need to do? I can add something called as a what? Margin. Okay, margin and padding can be added. Now here you see, I say margin 4 pixels. Okay, Now I'll make it 15 pixels. Right? Okay. Margins. And then I can give, so you see 15 pixels margin is given between the all the four sides, right? See in the left and the right, top and bottom. Okay, there is a margin. You're able to see the difference? See, look at the left margin. See how, where exactly this starts. Now I want to give a space between what? Okay, here you see this text using embed. It starts in the very next to the left margin. It starts here. Since I've given a okay, what margin of 15 pixels, after 15 pixels it has started. So you're able to see the difference, everybody? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Now I'll make it, instead of 15, I'll make it 25. Then it will be clearly visible. Right? Okay, fine. Now, when you look at the content and the border, see, the welcome to see this message appears just next to the border. I want some space to be left out between the text and all the borders. For that, I can give something called as padding. Padding, I say 10 pixels. Can you spot the difference now? So it has left let's say a space of 10 pixels on all the four sides, top, bottom, right? Are you able to see the difference, everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
So today what we have learned, I mean border and then margin, padding. Right? Then you can use font style italic. Okay. One more property, font family, font style. Write down, you try it out. Font style italic. Then there is a property called as text transform. We'll look at it now. Okay, the text transform property can take three values, uppercase, lowercase, and capitalize. Now look at the first paragraph. Okay, so for the paragraph, I've given the text transform as uppercase. Actually, I've typed it in lowercase, right? See how it appears on the web page. It is transformed to uppercase, right? So when you specify the text transform as uppercase, even if you type your contents in lowercase, it will be transformed to uppercase. Then similarly, for the H1, I've given the value as lowercase, right? See, I've typed it in uppercase, but still it appears in lowercase. Capitalize will make all the first letter of every word to be displayed in uppercase or capitals. Clear? Okay, write down this. Over? Okay, so basically these 10 properties will be frequently used in CSS for what? For styling all the elements like paragraph and all. There will be lot of other properties for designing, for laying out. We look at it in the coming classes. Okay, so I'm sure that by this time all of you would are familiar with and comfortable using all these 10 properties, right? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So you don't have any doubts in using. So whenever I ask you to use this property somewhere, okay, write, put some text in the HTML, apply background color, font size, everything, you will be able to do it, right? Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So now you've basically understood how to, let's say, write a CSS rule. What are all the important properties you need to know? So for manipulating the text, you have, let's say, this text alignment, size, family, then border, etc. Then margin and padding is used for spacing out the your text from the container, within the container. Then font style, text transform, etc. Now you have understood all the properties. Then let us look at the different ways of specifying the selectors. So what is meant by class, what is meant by ID, etc. So you know about this inline style, all this you're clear, right? Inline style, embedded style, external style sheet, all these things. Nobody is having any doubts, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Now, when you're using the selectors, there are different ways to specify the selector. If I want, I can combine the selector. When I'll be combining the selectors, let's say for a paragraph and a heading, a H1 tag, I want to give the same alignment. So I can combine them in the selector. I'd say H1 comma P, and then I give text align center. Then I can give the most commonly used selector is the element selector. You specify the HTML element for which you want the style to be applied. Then you have the, let's say, the ID selector. Okay, so when you want to apply a unique style to one particular element in a web page, you use the ID selector. Then class selector. So basically, I can use the class selector for two different purposes. See, for one particular element, I want to apply multiple styles. I can use the class selector, or let's say I want to define a style and I want that style to be applied to different elements. For both purposes, we'll be using class selector, and universal selector is very rarely used, because if you don't use it carefully, you might end up committing lot of mistakes. Now, when I say body, star, I mean background color, let's say I given green. Assume that, let's say, while giving this background color as green for the body, I forgot that in one particular paragraph in my website that I am displaying it in green color. Then what will happen? Background is green, my text color is green. What will happen? Nothing will be visible in that paragraph, right? Like that, these unintended mistakes might occur when you use universal selector. So it has to be very carefully used, and it is very rarely used because the chances of committing mistakes is more with the universal selector. Is it clear?
Ma'am.
Okay, for H1 and H2, I want to apply the common style. I can give that. And one more thing you need to remember is that I can specify the common properties, right? And I can also individually also I can specify some properties. Okay, for example, I remove this font size and color. So font family. I give Arial, right? Now for H1, fine. Now here you see what I have done for H1 and H2. I've given this font family Arial. So both of them are displayed in the same Arial font. But in addition to this, for H1, I've given some extra properties. There are what color, red font size. So that is also applied to H1. So similarly, I can let's say I can combine the selectors and I can give the common properties. So apart from that, individually also I can specify some properties. So everything will be applied for the element. So for H2, I give the color as blue and size is 18 point. Right? So remember, you can when you give the individual styles to an element, that will always be applied. So in addition to that, by combining the selectors, you can specify the common properties. All the properties will be applied together for the element. Clear? Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, note down. So if you combine the selector, it doesn't mean that individually you can't define the properties. Individually also you can define. Right now. Over. Okay, fine. Now, using the class selector. So as I already told you, class name will always begin with dot. Okay. Now, you can specify the class name with the selector or without, with the tag or without the tag. Now here in this example, what I want is, I want to specify two different styles for the same paragraph tag. Right, one paragraph I want it in the red color with the Arial font, and another paragraph I want it in a different font in blue color. So I can use this class selector. So in this case, what you do is you specify the tag along with the class name. Right, now whenever you want a particular style belonging to a particular class to be applied, along with the paragraph, you give the class name and give the name of the class within double quotes. Right? Okay. So now in the similarly, I can define 10 different styles for 10 different paragraphs, and I can use all those 10 styles for the 10 paragraphs in my web page. Right? So the first use of the class selector is that it lets you define multiple styles for a single element. Okay. Wait a minute. Write down. Now here you see when I apply this my red class, okay, this is displayed in red color. And for the second paragraph, I'm applying the second class, okay, that is displayed in blue color. Right, for the third paragraph, I am not given any class, any style. It is displayed in the default style. Default means whatever has been in every browser will have a particular type of formatting. Okay, default formatting for the body tag. So that style will be applied if you don't specify any styling attributes. Clear? So for the third paragraph, none of the styles are applied. Clear?
Ma'am.
Okay. Fine. Then we'll see the next use of the class selector. So what I can do is, in this case, this is also called as an anonymous class. That means I'm just giving a class name and I'm specifying some style attributes. I am not given the tag here. Right? Since I am not given any specific tag, the class can be applied to any selector in my web page. So since I'm not specifically set paragraph, I can apply it for paragraph, I can apply it for heading, and I can apply it for any element in my web page. So the second use of class selector is that multiple styles for a single element and a single style for multiple elements. Okay, right now. Over. So I'm applying the same style to the same style to two different elements, right? And I want a spacing between the border and the text. What I have to do? Tell me. Tell me. I want some spaces between the text and the border. What property I need to give?
Ma'am, padding.
Border I've already given, no.
Ma'am,
Inside,
don't we
see.
use yeah, okay.
What property? I've just explained. Say I've given a border, but I want, let's say the text starts with a, with a very close to the border. I want, let's say some space between the text and the border. What I have to do?
That's no margin.
Margin, okay. If I give a margin, see, when you say margin, that is a space between this element and the left and the right margins. Clear? See, from the left side of the web page, it is given a margin of 15. From the right side, 15, top and bottom. Now, what I want is the space between the text inside the border and the border. What I have to do? Just now the 10 properties I've said no and explained. Go and refer to it and tell me.
Ma'am, padding.
Huh?
Padding.
Padding, yes. Right. Now have you understood what is padding and what is margin? Right? Between all the four corners of the border and the content, a space of how much? 20 pixel is given. Clear to everyone? All of you have understood what is the difference between padding and then the margin? Margin is between the, yes, your body and then your element. Padding is a space within the container, between the content and the container. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then contextual selector. That is, you want to apply a particular style for a selector only if it is contained in a particular element, right? So let's say, for example, you can say, I want to apply a style to the underline tag, a particular color, if it is contained between a paragraph. So only when the underline tag appears within paragraph, I want a particular style to be applied. For that, you can use contextual selector. You can say there is an outer selector and an inner selector, right? The style is actually meant for the inner selector, but the context, the style will be applied only when it occurs within the context of the outer selector or the parent element. Clear? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, for the bold tag, I've defined two different styles. That is, when the bold tag appears within the heading tag H1, I want a particular style to be applied. The same bold tag, when it appears within the paragraph, I want a different style. So, depending on the context of the parent tag, the style will be applied. Let's say if I give a bold tag in somewhere without this H1 and B, none of the style will be applied. Okay, so look at this. And I've included this bold tag within H1 in the first line. So that is applied. Whatever the style I've given with in the context of H1 is applied. Then for the second one, bold tag. Okay, it occurs within a paragraph and I've given a light green background and blue color, that is applied. Then I use the bold tag without any context. None of the style will be applied. Right? Clear? Is it? To everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then the ID selector. Okay, you can give, let's say, a particular ID. IDs will be preceded by hash. And then ID in a selector starts with hash. How does the class selector starts? Right, tell me if I want to define a class in CSS, how do I start the class? Class selector.
You use a dot.
It starts with a dot. ID selector starts with a hash. So the basic difference between ID selector and the class selector is that IDs are always unique. You say no employee ID, student ID. Okay, so one ID can be given to only one student, not to multiple students. In the same way, in a web page, an ID can be specified only for a single element, whereas the classes can be class name can be repeatedly applied for different elements. Now, for example, let's say when I have define a class, anonymous class, I can apply the rules of that class to 100 elements in my web page. But when I specify a style for an ID, so I can apply it for only a single element in a web page, right? So in what scenario will you be using this ID? Can you imagine? In what circumstances you'll be using the ID selector?
Ma'am, when we want to describe something that's only unique to the website.
Okay. For example, let's say for a bold tag, let us take the bold tag. For a bold tag, I've already applied a style. Let's say a particular style. Let's say I'm in a green color with a particular background, and I want it to be applied throughout the web page. Now, when the bold tag appears within a heading, let's say H1, in the start, that is in the web page heading, I want to style it differently, but I don't want that to be applied for all the bold tags. I have defined a common style for all the bold tags, and that is how I want the web page to be displayed. But for one particular bold tag, I want to style it differently. So what I do is I define an ID selector and I apply that ID to that bold tag, right? So only for one particular bold tag that style will be applied, right? So here I've defined a ID selector and a class selector. I can use that ID only for a, let's say, a single element. The class selector can be repeatedly used. Let's say for the paragraph, I apply this page text. I can apply the same style for another paragraph. Right? Clear? So I've defined this class page text. I can apply it to let's say any number of paragraphs, any number of headings, right? I can use it, let's say, hundreds of times within the web page. But the, let's say, ID can be used only once. Clear? Fine. Then universal selector. So you have to be very careful. Let's say I have given the background color as peach puff. So whether I like it or not, for every element in the let's say web page, this color, this background color will be applied. So when you use the universal selector, all the elements within that container will be, let's say, selected and the style will be applied. Since body is the root element for all the containers, for every tag in the web page, this will be applied. Clear? Clear, everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Now what I'll do is so everybody, you have understood about how to style the elements. So can I give you a small assignment for CSS? Yes or no? You do it over the weekend. I'm not telling you to do it tomorrow itself. Can I give?
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Right? You'll be able to do it, right? So Saturday, Sunday, you don't have class. 2 days you can sit and then you can leisurely write the assignment.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. We'll just stop with this today. And from tomorrow onwards, we'll resume the new topics. Right?
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
okay. So, I mean, go through everything we have discussed today and then have a nice sleep. And tomorrow you come back with full energy for the tomorrow's class, right?
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Bye. Good night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.